This episode, we're going to be talking about why budgeting hasn't worked before. Maybe you've made one and haven't stuck to it, or you haven't even attempted it because the thought just makes you cringe. I'll be sharing the number one reason why you haven't stuck to a budget before and how to change that now so you can destroy your debt and finally drop your financial baggage at the door. I'm Jewlz The Budget Nerd, and my husband and I have eliminated over $107,000 of consumer debt from our lives so that we can be better versions of ourselves. The Debt Rebel podcast is all about our financial disaster and subsequent freedom, the lessons we've learned that ignited a passion in me to teach others that debt is not a requirement for adulting. I'll show you how to make a budget that doesn't suck the life out of you. If any of this sounds good to you, well, welcome. I have a ton more stories to share in future episodes, so stick around. Let's dive into today's episode. Why budgeting hasn't worked before. According to a 2019 Bankrate study, 59% of people make budgets but don't stick to them. So you know you're not alone, and I've been in your shoes before. Sticking to a budget can be really hard, and especially at first. According to another survey that I ran across, the main reasons why we can't stick to a budget or it falls apart is overspending, unexpected expenses, and a lack of discipline. So some of those things we can control, and some of those, right, we can't, and we just can make a plan for. Overspending and then the discipline part, we do have control over those things, but unexpected expenses, let's make a plan and figure it out. One of the biggest questions that I get in my financial coaching practice is why do I struggle to stick to a budget, or how do I force myself to stick to a budget? I think those two questions right there tell a lot. First off, this is the number one reason why I think that we cannot stick to a budget is because we look at it wrong. We think of the negative. And when the name budget, I was like, just kind of cringy, right? It doesn't have positive vibes or like happy thoughts, because it sounds restrictive, and that's not what it is. It's a spending plan, y'all. It is a spending plan. A budget is just a plan for how you're going to spend your money. It's a representation of the things that we want to accomplish in life. It's our goals, it's our dreams, it's our needs. We need to have some enjoyment in life. It's not all about work, and then it's game over, right? So I think somewhere along the way, and once I realized this also, it just shifted my mind in such a huge way, and the way I looked at a budget was very different. I realized I had stopped dreaming and I had settled for the quick thing. Like, I will figure out how to pay for this lifestyle later, but I need this thing. I am such a good salesperson to myself. Like, I can sell myself and justify myself on any expense. I had to dig a little deep, and also our culture says that too, right? We're just like, let's do the quick thing and we'll figure it out later, right? We'll figure it out later. All right. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably there. It's later. It's now. This is the lifestyle that you've been living. It's time to figure out how to pay for it and not keep paying for it in the future, but let's pay for it now and make a plan and get that debt paid off. So if you were to look at your most recent credit card statement or a debit card statement, if you use a debit card, or any receipts that you have, do those things that are on those, whatever you bought, does it represent what's most important to you? We have to think, is it what was most important to us last month? And if it doesn't, let's talk about it. Let's change that. This is something that I do with my coaching clients. It's an exercise that we go through and thinking about what is most important. Why do you want to get out of debt? I think the most important step in this process, one, is creating a budget. That's the tool, but it's digging down deep and asking yourself the questions. Why? Why do you want to get out of debt? I know you are parents and you're farther along in the parenting journey than myself. Right now I have a 5-year-old, and a lot of the questions are why? And why do we do things this way? Or why can't I have this? And why does someone else get to do this? Why do my friends get to do this and I don't? And vice versa. This stage is really fresh in my mind. And it really is interesting because it made me stop and think when my daughter asks those questions, when my 5-year-old says, Mom, why do my friends get to do this and I don't get to do that? And then give her an answer. And some things I have, yes, absolutely. I have an answer prepared and I can justify it. And then other stuff, it doesn't really make sense. And so I love that she is challenging me in that way in my parenting, but that's also really good when it comes to our finances and the way we think about the things that we're buying, and think about, why are we buying the thing that we're buying? Is it because we have a need? Is it because maybe the need is something like today, toothpaste. I had to run to the store to get some toothpaste. That's a need, right? Because we need to brush our teeth every day. But then sometimes we will buy something and it's fulfilling a different need. We need to brush our teeth. That's a need. But if we're buying something like some new clothes are necessary, but are we buying new clothes because there's something else going on in our lives that is fulfilling a need for? So those are kinds of questions to think through and ask yourself. Just keep asking yourself why. Why do you want to be debt-free? Why do you want to work less? Maybe you want to not continue on in the job that you're in right now, or the career that you're in, and you want to make a change. Maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's in the future. Maybe it's in a few months, in a few years. Why do you want to make that change? Why do you want to spend your money differently? Why do you want your life to look different than it does right now in this moment? And then another question that we don't want to dwell a lot in the past, but we want to ask ourselves, why do we make certain choices in the past when it comes to our finances specifically? And sometimes, more often than not, I have learned in the 20 years I've had studying how people interact with their money is it has nothing to do with the money. It has something to do with the emotions that are behind whatever we feel like the thing that we're buying is going to accomplish for us. And so that could be a variety of things. It could be a coffee, it could be a new car, and everywhere in between. So asking ourselves, why are we buying the thing that we're buying? And then what kind of need is that fulfilling? And so I'm asking you these questions not to bring up some shame of things that have happened in the past, but to really just have an honest conversation with yourself so that you can see it for what it is, and then move past it and make decisions that are different. Because along our debt-free journey, I realized that there were things that we were just doing on autopilot because it's how we've always done life, or we kind of fell into a groove of that's how we did life, and then realized it wasn't serving us anymore. It wasn't providing us the same level of enjoyment of life that we originally had before. And so we had to make some decisions. If this isn't serving us anymore, then it needs to go. And that could look like a lot of different things, but being crystal clear with yourself on why you want to create a better financial future for yourself and your family, that matters. So when we look at the past, like I said, we don't want to stay there. We just want to learn from it, connect with those emotions and those feelings, and then decide, hey, I'm going to move forward and hold on to that why, and do not let it go, because when things come up, you're going to want to reconnect with that. And so here's some practical tips on how to do that. So tell someone. It could be me. It could be, we have a Facebook community of other debt rebels that you can jump in and you can share, why do you want to be debt free? Maybe there's some people in your life that are like your inner circle, your closest people, the people that you trust and you feel the safest with, and tell them, why do you want to be debt free? I know our culture has a way of saying like, this is one of the topics that we don't talk about. And I think that is not great, because if we're all in that situation together and no one's talking about it, it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, wait a second, none of us are making positive progress on our goals financially if we're not talking about it. So I'm not saying you have to blast it all over Facebook and around people that you don't feel safe with, but find someone to let them know, hey, this is something I'm working on, so that when you lose sight of the why, because life happens and you'll forget and it will get challenging, is you can connect with that person. They can say, hey, remember you wanted to, so that you could take that family vacation every single year, and you could plan for it and pay for it before the vacation actually happens. And you have a family dream of owning a bed and breakfast or something like that. Whatever it is, whatever your reason why, and being able to create that life for yourself, don't lose sight of that. So tell someone, show up in a community of people like our Facebook community. And if you want that link, it's in our show notes. Tell your best friends, tell your people, post it in your home somewhere so you don't lose sight of it, because when you lose sight of it is when we get off track. So then you get to work looking at your new budget and figuring out what that budget looks like through this newfound why. And it is asking yourself over and over again. And you will get tired of asking yourself this question, but eventually it will become autopilot. And so you'll be where I am now. And when I go to buy something, I go, wait a second, why am I buying this? So is spending your money on whatever it is, XYZ, that you're about to buy, getting you closer to the goal that you have for your life? And if it's not, adjust accordingly. So sometimes it is like, okay, this is a short-term thing. Like I need toothpaste today. My daughter needs toothpaste. That's a need. And yes, is it getting me closer to my goal? She needs toothpaste, right? But if I'm buying something, for example, like there's this shirt that I really, really want on Amazon. It's not a lot, but I would rather spend my time doing something else or spend my money doing something else than buying that shirt right now. So I have an alert set up on Camel, which, by the way, if you do Amazon shopping and you want to plan out your purchases and keep them under a certain amount, that is a great tip. Is to sync your Amazon wish list with camel.com. And then you can set your rates of how much you want to spend on certain things, and then it'll alert you so you don't have to stay on the app. Anyway, that's a total side note. After you have figured out your why and how you want to be financially independent and live debt-free, tell someone. So there is a link in the description here for this podcast, or you can also check out the full show notes on my website at jewlzthebudgetnerd.com/show notes. Also, if you haven't taken the 5-day challenge on my website, you'll find it there as well. It's a great thing. And now, if you are going through this podcast right now and you're listening to it and you already have your why, you're done with day one. So tell someone. And the reason why we haven't succeeded at budgeting in the past is because we haven't connected with why we want to do things differently. Why, right? Figure out your why, tell someone, and let's get to work on building that budget so that it aligns with what you want your life to look like and what your goals are, and so we can eliminate that debt. So like I said, tell your people. I would love to be one of those people. I love hearing people's stories, and especially finding out why. Like I said, I've spent the last 20 years watching and learning how people interact with their money, whether they're a single parent that's working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, or they're millionaires that are trying to figure out how to donate money to help the most people possible, and everywhere in between. And how we have this tool of money, and our culture has said, hey, this is what we're going to use to exchange value back and forth. And how our culture has put so much weight on money, and that it is an inanimate object. It has no feelings, but we have given it feelings. And so part of my one woman crusade is it's just a tool, debt rebel. Don't give it more value than it has. I love hearing your stories of where have you been? Where are you going? And let's go there together. Let's conquer this debt. Let's get out of debt, and let's share this with more people. So let me know what your story is. Let me know your why. I want to cheer you on. I want to encourage you on this journey. I am a real person. This is my real voice. And I am in my website, jewlzthebudgetnerd.com, JEWLZ, thebudgetnerd.com. You can connect with me there. Also on Instagram. I want to know, I want to hear why do you want to get out of debt? And don't lose sight of that. Post that everywhere, whether it's on Post-its. Include your family in this. Include your children, especially, age appropriately. Like, babies might not understand, but include your family in this process, because dreaming together as a family is very important, and being on the same page. And we have some future podcasts coming up about how to do that effectively. But have this conversation with your family. What are some goals and dreams that each of them have individually, your children and your spouse, and dream together. All right. So today's action: find out your why, tell someone. All right. So there you are. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you got something from today's podcast. And if it was helpful for you, I would love it if you would leave me a review, hit subscribe, and maybe share with a friend. Because the more people and the more engagement that I have, it all determines what kind of stuff. I have some plans on what future podcasts look like, but I want to know what you all need. I want to know, Debt Rebel, what you need. And so that I can serve you better and share more of my story with you. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the first episode, you'll hear the journey that my husband and I went through to eliminate our debt, and some big plot twists of life that came as we were, going through that process, and what came after we became debt free. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to that story, listen and connect with me on my website or on social media, and stay tuned. I want to know what you're working on, and I also want to know what you need so that I can create more content for you. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this, and remember, every step toward financial independence is a rebellion against debt. So stay strong, keep pushing forward, and fight the good fight. Until next time, Debt Rebel, stay resilient.